Hi everyone, and welcome to February's edition of Babes with Books. We're really glad that we were able to come out and share some love stories with you this month. We had some crazy snow, so it was a little bit of a worry that we were all going to get here, and I think we're just
Valentine's Day.
a little late because of that. So yes, we'd like to start out by thanking Pandora's Books for hosting us in every month. We take up their space. And we'd also like to thank Kristen for Olds Institute for coming out on this cold and snowy night and filming us. And make sure, if you are watching on Facebook Live, to comment or ask any questions that you would like answered, and we will definitely try to interact with you guys as we go along. So, for the Valentine's Day month, we chose love stories, which could have been anything that we wanted to choose, actually. So, I looked at looking at some nonfiction, but ended up with going with super traditional, actually, nearly Harlequin. So we'll see what my pick was.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We're all going to share a different book. We're going to talk about what we look for in a love story, what we look for in love in real life, things like that.
Many things.
Yeah,
I have lists of questions.
I know, it's going to be a good month. I'm excited. It's a big genre. It's a big world out there in fiction. Very classic, too, so there's a lot there. Let's start off by our favorite literary love couples.
Okay, we'll do that. Because I have a question for you guys too that's
just
a
to
little
start
bit
us
love
off.
related.
Okay.
But favorite literary love couples, let's do that. That's fine.
All right.
What do you think, Shauna?
Mine has to be Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet, because that's my favorite book of all time. So,
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah. How about you, Leslie?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a couple that I kind of was thinking about for this, and I think my favorite would be Jamie and Claire from Outlander. They're just like, well, Jamie really.
Yeah,
Claire's pretty awesome though too. She rocks
Jamie
as
and
a
me
nurse.
from Outlander. That's my favorite. No, I'm joking. And then I really liked Dawn and Rosie from the Rosie Project.
Oh, I put that one on the table.
Yeah, I really loved the Rosie Project. I thought it was a really cute love story, a little unorthodox. It's not the one I picked for recommendation, but if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
Melinda's is Anne and Gil.
Anne and Gil.
True,
yeah. Yes.
I am up there with Melinda with an Ellen Montgomery pick. It's not Anne and Gilbert though. I really like Emily and Teddy, which is it's a trilogy about Emily, and so that's one of mine. I put out another one actually, The Time Traveler's Wife, which is Henry and Claire. So those are my two favorite couples. But Emily and Teddy, I adore. Like, much like you adore Jamie, Teddy he's pretty fantastic. He's like an author, and he's all sweet.
I think everyone has like
Mr. Darcy.
a literary crush, like a man in a book. If anyone has anything online,
Whoa, who is
let
your
us
literary
know who
crush?
your literary
This
crush
is a big thing in like book blogging and such like that. They have nicknames for it. Like I worry about some teenage book lovers actually that are on Instagram and their obsessions with some of these characters.
You know, there's
It's a little
also
bit
some
worrisome.
authors that I'm a little bit obsessed with, just because they're just
know about
amazing.
that.
Don't even go
authors,
there.
Regardless, like,
We have the same one.
yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure he has quite a few because I follow him like
We might be
religiously.
in love with Patrick Rothfuss.
Yes.
If you're watching this, Patrick,
Well, no,
see us.
Okay, so but this is interesting. This is an interesting topic that we can head into. Like I don't want to skip your question, but I like to talk about the idea of love. Like, there's romantic love, but Patrick Rothfuss is like that love that I just super admire him as a human being, and like feel like I would be his like, I don't know, slave or like housekeeper or something.
yeah. And just to be around him.
Yeah, that's actually like it's not a romantic love.
I just
need to
please be
defend
my
that.
friend.
I feel like being in the same room as that person would be inspiring.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, like
I want to
loving
be.
form.
You want to be his muse or something, right?
Yeah.
That's another great love story too.
I've totally digressed and gone into a bit of a Patrick Rothfuss world here, actually.
But Name of the Wind, like the love story there that's in that whole series, is
it's pretty good. Yeah. So, what's your question?
Well, my question was, I'm curious, and if anyone online has any ones that they want to mention to us, we'll give a shout out as well. I want to know what your favorite, like if you were at a bookstore on Valentine's Day, what would be the pickup line that would make you go out on a date? Like, let's do some literary pickup lines.
Yep.
Your favorite one.
Do we gotta like schmarmy voice?
Oh
and
yeah.
everything? Okay.
Smarmy it up.
Why don't you let me bring you to Treasure Island?
Oh, nice. What about you, Shauna?
Oh my gosh. Really anything that I can't even think of what it would be. But anything that makes me laugh, like I would literally burst out
Yeah, I know,
laughing
it
if
was a good
someone
one.
said that to
I
me,
liked
and
it.
I probably would sit down and have coffee.
How about,
You
can
make
I
me
buy
laugh.
you a book?
Yeah, no, that's not exciting.
Oh
Guys.
wow! I was like, what? Yeah,
Definitely.
like well, that
Never
wins me
mind
over.
buy me a drink. Buy me a book.
My husband and I actually go on dates at Chapters. That's our
Well, that's
idea
totally
of a
my
date.
date. Because there's Starbucks and Chapters.
Yeah,
so my
it's
husband buys
perfect.
me
You just
coffee.
go, you have a
and I
coffee,
browse.
you browse around.
I take pictures of books that I want to
Don't
read.
even have to be
He
near
follows
each other. You're
behind
just like,
me.
oh, look what I found. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. That's our
Mine
date, too.
is, for those of you who don't know, I work at a library as well. So I would say, I hope you brought your library card because I'm checking you out.
I bet
I
you've
would fall
actually
for
used
that
that
one.
in real
I would
life.
fall
too.
for
I've waited for somebody to use that on me, but nobody has yet. So. Sorry. All right,
Oh,
what
that's awesome.
are we recommending for love stories this month? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. My book that I read this month is called Extraordinary Union, and it is by Alyssa Cole. You'll find it on a lot of lists for like best romance novels of 2017, so I picked it up. It is about Elle Burns, and she is a former... Hi everyone, sorry that we cut out on you there. We just had a bit of technical difficulty, but we are back now. And
It's
we
the
were
snow.
just 24 centimeters of snow. We get to say that it's the snow's fault for a few days at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was my book, Extraordinary Union. Great romance novel if you like that sort. Really fun historically if you like that as well. Yeah, so that was what I read this month. Leslie, what did you read?
Well, I wanted to recommend Tipping the Velvet.
Okay.
I picked it because it's a little bit unorthodox as a love story. Still a very beautiful love story. So it's set in the late 1800s, starts kind of like 1880, goes for a good 10 years. And it follows the story of a young girl named Nan King who falls in love at first with a girl who is on the stage as a male impersonator.
Okay.
So it's kind of touted as an erotic fiction, but I wouldn't think of it as the 50 Shades of Grey type erotic fiction or anything like that. I would call it a literary erotic fiction. There's nothing in there that is too, like, really that graphic.
But did they put
or-
the word erotic on that, do you think, because it breaches normal standards?
There's
Because I'm
definitely-
feeling a transgender style
Yeah.
here. So is
Yeah,
that, do you think that's
definitely.
why they want to attach that word so that people...
well, no, there is
get
definitely
scared away?
sex scenes in it.
Okay.
So there is sex scenes in it, but none of them, like, I felt that they were really beautifully written. I didn't feel like this was like hot and heavy, let's read about sex. It was very just beautiful. So definitely highly recommend it. It definitely follows the, definitely. It follows the themes of homosexuality, transgender, but all set in the late 1800s. So there's a lot of historical fiction in there as well, with unions being formed.
Oh,
It's set in
interesting.
England, and just some of the changes that they went through in the late 1800s as well. So really good story. Different covers. I think the right now is the more risque one. They've changed it. It was also created, I found out in my research, into a miniseries. So there is a television series.
Are you going to give it a go?
I might give it a go and see how it goes.
Yeah. I think it's going to be more of a historical and probably downplay that.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
It definitely shows the two girls on it. But
right
yeah. But the first love story too with it wasn't the one that was followed through right to the end. So it was like her evolution as just a person growing up, because she's under the age of 18 when she falls in love with this girl, and then it kind of goes till she's 24. So
I want to read it.
yeah,
Sounds
it was really good.
Yeah.
Interested.
That was mine. What about you, Shauna?
Speaking of under the age of 18, my book is called The Mothers by, sorry, I always forget this. Mothers by Bennett is her last name. What is her first name? Britt Bennett. Sorry about that. And it is not what I thought it was about.
Because I'm going with mothers right now.
Is it about motherly love?
I thought it was about motherly love, but it's actually kind of about the lack thereof of motherly love of the two main girls. and so they're motherless, and different reasons why they're motherless, but so they find love with each other. They're kind of very opposite on the spectrum, so they form a relationship together, but it's like a platonic relationship. It's not a sexual relationship or anything, but just that whole metamorphosis of women as they get older and need that connection with other women, especially if they don't have a mother involved.
Oh, I can totally address
and,
this. Yeah.
And just the whole idea, that's what's been really, really excellent in the book, is that whole idea of women really connecting with other women in that platonic way to really get their needs met, right? And it just reminded me of a book like Little Women.
Yeah.
They're sisters, but it's about that connection. Like, women need other women.
Oh yeah, big time.
The red tent, like we need other women.
We were just today, me and two girlfriends, talking about sister wiving it. Like,
yeah,
like it's just
Wow,
and not
sister wives and everything.
no, but like not in that sister wives point. But it's the only way that you can think of like being like that supportive and helpful, right? Like it becomes almost a joke when you realize how much like that you rely on these friendships and these relationships.
Well, the
that you
red tent
form.
is talked about a lot.
I love
in
that
case, right?
I loved that book when I read that because of those relationships.
Yeah.
That's why I liked it. Yeah.
So, we all have very different books, and you have like a very traditional.
Super.
Mine's a little unorthodox, but still romantic, and yours
mine's
is more platonic.
not romantic. It's
So, my question, I guess, to you guys is, how much romance needs to be in a book for it to be considered a romance novel? You guys online can let us know what your thoughts are as well. But how much romance needs to be in a book?
When we're talking genres.
When we're talking genres.
Yeah.
What makes it go from
and I think
fantasy,
a great example
like you
for
put
people.
Hunger Games on there. So why did we put that?
This is a really good example, and Outlander's another one. Outlander's another one for me. I consider Outlander a romance novel.
Yeah. But it's also in the sci-fi section.
I've seen it in fantasy, and I've seen it in general fiction. I think most traditionally it's kept in general fiction, and I full on think that Outlander is as romancy as 50 Shades.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nothing but romance. Outlander. Like, I don't know how you can just leave it in the general section.
How much
the
romance
whole
do you need to be in
reason for her
romance?
to be traveling through. Anyway, sorry.
So does the central theme have to be a romantic relationship for it to be considered romance? Or is it enough to have like this other story and there happens to be a romance in it?
I think for me, it's more the way that a love story is addressed. Maybe not that it's a central theme, but whether I feel it's addressed in a way that is either an escape or a fiction, or whether it's something that you could imagine like or believe as a real life, like where it's teaching you perhaps something about life. I don't think that romance novels are there to do that. I don't know if this is coming across the way I want it to. I think romance novels are an escape. They are, I read something, it said, they are a tub of ice cream eaten when no one is watching. Yeah. That's what a romance novel is to me.
That actually, brings up another question that I had too, and a really good point. Like, why do people read fluffy fiction?
And that's why.
A lot of
we
times
all want candy and ice cream, and we want to feel that, right? So that's what makes the difference for me in whether it's like is this a tub of ice cream that I just want to eat because it makes me feel that rush of love and that idea of that is out there. Whereas something like Time Traveler's Wife for me wasn't a romance because it was more addressing a relationship between two real characters, which could be, and that it just progressed in a way that I didn't feel was that tub of ice cream. It was more like, okay, yes, I could see this. Like, I could feel myself in this situation. I can picture this happening. Whereas in Harlequin, like, I don't want to be in that situation. Like, no, thank you. But I do want to read it sometimes to feel that pleasure.
One of my favorite things to do is to read romance novel, like Harlequin romance novel titles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's some on the shelf that we can grab.
Oh, there's some good ones
Maybe
out there.
Jason from Pandora's here will grab us some titles that are particularly funny and we can read them to you guys.
I bet there's like I'm not good at searching for like memes or what are those, what's that?
Sure.
Yeah, but I bet there's a really good.
I have one upstairs that I just had to grab when I found it. It's called What the Librarian Did. Not
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
say
What the
whether it's,
librarian did.
I know.
Okay.
They're
very
good.
funny.
What do you think on that terms differentiates
Tell us out there too, guys.
love stories from erotic fiction? Because why is yours? Yeah, like is it just a sex scene?
I think, well, I think in general terms of like what publishers qualify as erotic versus romance, it would definitely be the content of the sex. And I think that that's going to be a moving target in the future, because I think just like television, what we used to be able to watch on television and what we considered like just something that had to be late night TV versus something that now is like, well, you know, you always see
Because I don't. Yeah.
a woman's chest in, like, I think of something like Game of Thrones. That's just mainstream now, 6 o'clock at night.
I know.
Whereas before it would have been like after 10.
It's not even like women's chest. Like
Yeah.
we're seeing penises now.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and that to me that's even more.
Yeah.
To me, the difference, like romance versus erotic, it's not the amount or even that they're having sex. It's the type of sex, and I think that's where 50 Shades started to. That's why it got so much attention, is because it crossed that line into that type of sex. So
Do
in
you
yours, that's
think,
I do
though,
think
that
it's that
it's
female on female brings it into
maybe-
that erotic area.
But I think that there's still a lot of erotic fiction out there that is just vanilla, so to speak.
I don't know.
I just think
I
that
have not found one.
the stuff that sells more and the publishers are choosing to publish is that stuff that's a little bit more risque, because maybe that's what it takes.
I
nowadays.
really like. I. It's not very often that erotic fiction is like vanilla girl on guy sex. No.
Well, we have a challenge now. We have to find some vanilla erotic fiction that has been published for Maya. Everyone, send Maya a message on our video that is a...
My kids are saying hi right now.
Hi, yeah. Anyways, they don't know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so...
We have a question.
Oh, questions.
JP says, lately I've been made aware of how prevalent romantic relationships are in most fiction, even as just a side theme. Any thoughts on why?
Yes, actually, that was a question I had too. So I think I guess my question coupled with that is, do you need romance in a book to make it interesting? Like, as a writer, when I'm writing a novel, I always kind of feel like there has to be some kind of love interest.
No, I love a book that doesn't have one.
Okay. I don't know.
I almost feel like
depends
it's
on the
like I'm like,
character.
you did a successful job here. You managed to do this without introducing a romance, both in a film and in a book. I'm quite impressed if an author can carry off a story without needing to introduce romance when there's the possibility. If you have a book about 4 friends, or like if there's no necessary possibility, but if you've introduced a possibility and you don't head down that road, I think that's an impressive feat. Because it's just taking that and it's twisting it on its head, in my opinion. But I do find, I agree with this question. I think they're out there. But I was recently looking for just like I was looking for non-Harlequin, like not kept in the romance section, love story that ended happy for someone. And they are really difficult to find.
Yeah. In the general
Outside of classics.
fiction.
Sorry, this person doesn't like classics either. So like I had those caveats. Outside of a classic, general fiction,
Romance
and ended
that
happy.
ended happy.
Because there's a lot of romances that don't, like this
So-
is one of my favorites. But this book, you cry from pretty much about here onwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a blubbering mess.
So then I guess that it also leads to another question of
You want to pack this up and just look at some books?
I've lost it. You had it. Nice. And then,
okay.
yeah,
That's okay.
it'll come to me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, back to whether we need romance in a book or not. I think there's a lot of like genres that don't require it. Like I think of suspense and mystery. They don't necessarily
You don't get a lot of it in fantasy.
require. You don't get a lot of it in fantasy, but well, there usually is something in there that is, you know, that the girl
The
that you
big
have to
boobs,
impress, the
usually.
princess, or the you know. I think there's almost always a love story in a fantasy book. Even in like Ready Player One is another good example. There's the Wade Watts' love interest online, right?
See, and
So-
that I didn't like about that book. I didn't know why he had to do that. I struggle with that, especially in a
Have we
YA
answered
area.
we haven't answered the why we think that's happened.
Why do I think it happens? It's because scientifically we are formed as human beings to procreate and to keep us surviving on the earth as humans, and therefore our
We're
basis
always thinking about it.
scientific, our testosterone or our
I think we're
progesterone is
also
always firing.
always thinking about relationships in general. So whether you're a male or a female, as
Yeah.
a writer, you're thinking about relationships and how you interact with the world. So it's just a natural thing to, if you're writing what you know, you write your relationships based on that.
I think, though, I don't. I disagree with that. I think for love, people are writing what they want, not what they know.
Yeah.
And that's that Harlequin that's that genre of romance is you are not writing actually what you know, or maybe can even ever know. Most of those are not very realistically based,
They're
right?
not?
Well, not in my opinion. No.
Well, so what do you
Well-
think of people that live their life thinking that that is
There are
the
people
goal?
like that, do they?
No. Are you kidding me? Love you like the movies. Right?
This is the whole.
Is-
There's a big issue
is
with
that a
boys and with the
detriment
boys
to
think
society?
romance is.
So like
and
read
stuff
them,
right now
enjoy them,
because,
good times. Have good times with them.
Does it set false expectations?
I would hope not. Really?
Well, clearly
Yeah.
you read a lot of romance and you don't have
I do.
these
I am a
expectations.
sucker for a romantic story. I've been reading romance since I was like 12 years old. Sweet Valley High, Elizabeth, and Todd. Like totally loved them. They were great. Like
Are you a romance reader?
Every summer I read romances, yeah, for sure.
oh,
you
it's
save
just
it
in the
for
summer,
summer?
hey?
If we're
I love
on a
that.
holiday-
Just the summer, folks. I only do it for one season of the year.
Well, no, the trashy
Okay,
stuff.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's usually my Kobo, right? So no one sees the cover.
I don't read a
I
lot
want
of
people to
fluffy
see the
fiction.
cover.
I have
I
a
read
girlfriend
romances
who,
because I think that there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of romance in, like the Red Rosie Project. I thought it was great, but to me that's a general fiction. It's not in the romance section because it's more about his character developing. And anyways,
yeah.
men out there that are watching, do you read romances, and what would make you read a romance if you don't?
Is there male romances?
Westerns are male romance. No, not a word of a lie. Westerns are male
They are.
romances.
Because there's often romance in them, right?
Oh, there's sex scenes in them.
No way, Jose. I
Yeah.
have never read one.
Yeah.
Have you ever read a Western?
No.
They're
No,
just
no.
harlequins for men.
Oh yeah, totally.
I need to read one now. Oh my gosh. I am picking one up at Pandora's before I leave. Anyone got a good Western recommendation?
Anything's angry, you can't go wrong.
Oh, that's where, okay. I don't know. Romance is such a funny genre. I really think it's a very interesting genre. What I really think is that women shouldn't shame themselves about reading them. Whether
Yes.
it's erotic fiction or a Harlequin or a Danielle Steele or your literary romance that you read over and over again because it just makes you feeling good inside, like let yourself.
But there is a stigma, right? Like
Oh,
when
huge.
you
That's
when
why
you
I'm
see
saying
someone
this.
just reading fluffy fiction, you get there's that stigma of
So-
I can't. I'm only reading fluffy fiction, so
Preparing
I'm
for
not
this.
as good of a reader.
Preparing for this show, I read that there was a market research study done that 42% of women who primarily say they read Harlequin novels have a BA, a bachelor degree at the least.
Sometimes
So
you
you're
just
looking
need
at
to turn
nearly
off
half.
your brain. Like that's why I like
Yep.
to read them, is just to turn off the world and all the crap
Well,
and just.
and if you think about it this way, let's say you're a doctor and you spend all day at the office dealing with issues, you have all of these really important things that you're thinking about all day long. Do you want to go home and read a medical textbook or a really heavy fiction? No, you want to like read about Suey that decided to fall in love with Joey and he's a billionaire that what's 50 Shades of Grey about?
Oh, 50 Shades. I read another interesting thing. Here's something that somebody wrote a paper and called romance novels, like our traditional ones that we're looking at, a feminist document because they are written almost exclusively for women, by women, concerned with women and their family relations, their love relations, their marriage, their place in society, their world, and their dreams for their future. So are we going to look back in 100 years? Honestly, that is Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice, if we didn't have such attachment to it as a historical classic, would be shelved with Harlequins, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And it is. It's the reason why we love it so much is it's because it was one of those first ones that was written by a woman that concerned them and was all about them, right?
Yeah, and taking those women's roles and like the Elizabeth is not the typical woman.
Yeah.
Right? And just totally
Turns it
flipping
on
those-
its head.
Yeah.
And lots of times you'll see them, this Harlequin.
Well,
They're like the boss
and I
babes, and they're
think-
like taking
yeah.
control of their lives. They're, things like that, right?
I think
So-
that's why fiction in general has gone, and especially romance, has gotten a little bit more risque as of late, because it used to be a woman taking charge was like, now
Yeah.
you got to go further in order to go get the, because that's just commonplace now. So so anyways, we should probably wrap up.
I knew love was going to be a good one to talk
Yeah.
about. We did good. And next
So,
month, Leslie?
Next month we are talking about mashups.
Mashups.
So what does that mean to you? It'll be interesting to see what we come up with that theme. I have some stuff in mind that I'm going to do. But
You like
mashups, whatever that is
Right,
for you.
Mm-hmm. Kind of. Yeah. Okay. And we are here. Does anybody know the date?
It is always the second Thursday of the month.
Second
so,
Thursday. Perfect. Okay.
Mark your calendar, and we will be here at 7:00.
Oh, January is March 8th.
March 8th. Yeah,
February, March this year are funny. Everything's the same.
same.
Yeah. So March 8th, same time next month.
Thank you all for tuning in. Feel free to continue the conversation, and thank you again to Pandora's and the Olds Institute for helping us out tonight.
Well,
Have a good night, guys. Be safe.
Night.